Today a lot of business owners are having to go into the tech world for the first time,
Right.
whether by design or just the absolute necessity to compete. Take me through the beginnings of how people can think about creating a great tech product.
Yeah, well, I think that it starts with not focusing on tech, but focusing on the mission. When our team came together, we figured we want to help organize and empower the creative world. That was our mission, and we wanted to be mission-centric and medium agnostic, meaning let's do it through any medium we can, whether it be tech or a conference or a book or a paper product. I also think that access to technology as a medium has become somewhat commoditized.
Mm-hmm.
It's where it took $500,000 to get the first set of servers at Facebook up and running in the early days. Now you can spin up instances of servers and anything you really need on the tech side, relatively speaking, for a small monthly fee. Mm-hmm. You have access to a world of developers that are able to do things for you on an hourly basis. You can really quickly prototype things. If you want to build a website with a store, there are now templated sites that allow you to do that. Mm-hmm. So that's an opportunity for any sort of business mm-hmm. to take baby steps into the world of tech mm-hmm. as a medium for delivering the mission that they're seeking.
And obviously there's a financial component, but there's also a time component. Just because you can iterate a million times over and create 20 different versions of a product, sometimes folks would say, why is something worth even tackling in the first place?
Well, I think you have to first ask yourself, is this part of what's going to really distinguish us? A lot of businesses want to invest in tech just to be also rans, to have what other folks have. I think that you should focus on the things that other people don't have. You should distinguish yourself in some angle of your product or service. For some companies, that's the tech. And if you're going to distinguish yourself in your space with the technology, then obviously you need to build things in-house and make them particularly special. But if you're distinguishing yourself in the good that you're selling, or if you're distinguishing yourself in the content that you're generating, then obviously the tech becomes appropriately secondary mm-hmm. in the whole scheme of things.
And then once you have this, process up and running, people are building, what are the metrics that you're checking for? I know you talk a lot about how folks get stuck in analysis paralysis
sure.
and, get too stuck on the planning and not actually executing. Along the way of going from point A to beta to product launch, what are the first missteps people should,
right.
look out for? And secondly, what are the procedural systems that they should look at to make sure that they are staying on target?
Well, I think you have to focus on just a couple metrics at any time. I think one of the mistakes we make is we get too much stuff to focus on and we don't focus on the key levers. Many businesses, for example, in my space, the two most important metrics are signups and engagement, which is often measured in what they call MAU, monthly active users. Mm-hmm. And so or DAU, daily active users. And what you're always trying to optimize for is increasing both of those. And everything else is sort of secondary. Mm-hmm. A lot of businesses, I remember talking to Dennis at Foursquare about how he's really, he was trying to get his product team to focus on fewer and fewer key metrics rather than everything. I think a lot of entrepreneurs across different types of businesses try to zero in on the metrics that matter.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that it's best to get something out as fast as humanly possible, or is it better to get it right? And can you even get it right?
Well, I think that you never get something truly, truly right without tons of iteration. And it certainly does not need to be truly, truly right when it first hits the market, or you'll never push it to fruition. What I would say is that you don't want to cut corners on the things that truly distinguish what you're doing. You do want to cut corners on everything else to get it to market. And I think that's one of those pearls of wisdom when you're trying to get something off the ground with limited resources, mm-hmm. is you want to make sure that the one thing you're most known for is truly thought out and refined at launch. Mm-hmm. And you need to make sure you don't dwell on all the other things that could just get in the way of shipping.
And I imagine a big part of that are customers and their feedback and the way they're interacting, like you said, through the various engagement metrics. How much should a business owner take into consideration customer feedback when it comes to new bells, new whistles, new business models? There's that Steve Jobs philosophy that says we'll tell the market what we, think they should have. And then there's the other side that subscribes to, let's educate the market, basically learn from them and also teach them. Where do you fall in that? What do you think is important?
Well, I think I'm in between. There's a great story in our team of when we were first launching our business back in 2006. We had a focus group, and the only focus group we ever had, even 7 years running now. We had a focus group, and we asked folks if they felt they needed a place to showcase their work online. And people said, absolutely not. We have MySpace. There are other sites that are creative, that we DeviantArt, to show work online. We don't need another one of those sites. We said, okay, great, bad idea. what are you struggling with right now? And they said, oh, well, I don't get attribution for my work. It's really hard to get jobs from people that I don't already know. It's really hard to get my work organized with other work like it in the area, the region, for people to be able to track what I'm doing. It's so unproductive to keep up my own personal portfolio site as well as my public presence. It's so inefficient. A laundry list of problems that they were suffering from. And we said, wow, well, we believe that a new way of showcasing and discovering creative work is the solution to those problems. So it was the perfect example of the customer not knowing what they needed, but thinking they knew what they wanted. So I think when it comes to driving home on a problem that people don't realize they have, you want to be revolutionary. You want to think a few beats beyond where everyone else is, and you should not rely on customers to reinforce that you're headed in the right direction. But that being said, when something is up and running, you have to be obsessed with how people are actually using it. And oftentimes you'll find that people are using it in a way you didn't expect. And that could be your business.
From the first iteration of your first product or version of your business to now, what do you think has been the biggest lesson you've learned through that process that still holds true today, no matter what stage your business will end up at now or as part of a larger company now? What is that tried and true mission that you've learned?
Well, I think I would answer the question in a few different ways. When it comes to product, I think what we've realized is that the devil's in the defaults, and that's something I know Dave Marin also talks about with Path, is you love to have faith in your customer or your user that they'll figure out all the little nooks and crannies of your product, but in fact, the vast, vast majority of people will only give what's immediately in front of them. They'll only take and leverage that. And so you really have to challenge your product team to simplify, reduce. We have fewer features in Behance today than we had 7 years ago or 6 years ago, which is really telling. And I think the product is better today than it's ever been. And I actually feel like there are a few more things we have to kill.